This week we thought we'd do a short video on hiking with Rafa. If you've seen some of our other videos, you'll see that Rafa is an integral part of the group. She's on all the hikes with us, day trips, overnight trips, multi-night trips. She does a tremendous job on the trail, and she's done close to 100 miles on the AT this summer. She did last winter one of the 4,000 footers in New Hampshire in winter, so she clearly is a trooper and she's experienced on the trail. So what I wanted to do today is give you a look at exactly what we bring with us and talk a little bit about what we do to keep Rafa safe and healthy on the trail. So this is all of the gear, not necessarily all of the gear we'll bring on all trips, but this is by and large the gear we bring with us for Rafa, and we'll go through each of the pieces here. I guess the biggest difference would be whether it's a warm weather or a cold weather hike. There's a difference in the items we bring, and then obviously the length of the trip would determine just how much of each item, particular food and water, that we would bring with us. So let's go through the pieces one by one and give you an idea of what it is that Rafa uses on the trail. So the first thing we were going to take a look at is the pack, the most important piece of equipment she brings. This is the Roughwear Approach pack. Oddly enough, I looked this up today to get some specs for it and couldn't find this exact model. So my guess is they've made a change to it, and it looks like the biggest change is it doesn't seem to have these two, and maybe I just couldn't find it today. I didn't look real hard, but these two pockets at the top, which are relatively small, seem to no longer be on the item today. But anyways, this pack retails somewhere in the area of about 80 bucks. I'm sure if you do some digging, you can find it cheaper in places, but this one's about 80 bucks. As a lab, she wears a large size. So what it has is 4 different pockets. Again, the 2 small ones at the top, and then 2 much larger ones on the side. There's a loop here that you can attach the leash to, and typically what we do is attach the leash to this and then tuck the leash into one of these small pockets and zip it up as far as it will go, so that in the event we need to get her back on the leash quick, all we have to do is pull it out of this pocket and she's on the leash already. She also walks very well with this attached to the loop here. It sort of acts as a harness, so she walks very well on it. Pockets are very spacious. We've been out for 3 days and she can carry all her food and water, her blanket, her bowl, all those things in these pockets. It's comfortable, and I guess we don't know exactly why it's comfortable other than the fact that it's never left any abrasions on her. She doesn't seem to have any hot spots or sensitivity to it. She never flinches when we put it on. In fact, she usually comes right over to have it put on. So it is a little bit tricky to get adjusted, and it's nearly impossible to adjust it while it's on her. So that took a little bit of time, but once it was fitted correctly, it seemed to work really well. What I will say, and this could be unique to Rafa, is maybe because she's a large dog, maybe it's her personality, but she really roughs this thing up. When she goes by trees or between rocks, she will frequently rub it against the rocks or the trees, and it's already, after 1 season, showing some abrasions. So I'm guessing for her it might be 2 or 3 seasons for that. Maybe different dogs will handle it different ways, particularly smaller dogs. The other thing is, if it gets unbalanced, one side gets significantly heavier than the other side, it will lean and potentially drag, and that's where you get some of these abrasions. So you just need to keep an eye on this. But this pack has worked really, really well for us. I guess another very important piece, obviously, taking Rafa out into the woods, is food and water. This is typically what we'll take. Obviously, will vary depending on how long we're going out, but what I do is I'll put each individual serving of her food. So she uses the dry dog food, she uses Blue Buffalo, but we will bring each serving individually in a Ziploc. And I know it creates a little extra trash, but we find it to be helpful for a couple of reasons. One is we know it's been pre-measured, so that prevents the chance for me to maybe overfeed her one day and then leave her a little short the next day. Keeps it dry. It also makes it easier for me to balance in the pack. So as she eats meals, rather than it being in one big bag, I can move the individual bags around from one side to the other to keep the pack balanced. And it's kind of tricky because if the pack isn't balanced fairly well, it does lean to one side, and it sometimes drags, and then I wonder if it's uncomfortable for her. So we do individual meals on longer trips, and I would say anything more than 5 or 6 hours out, I will bring her an extra meal. So she usually eats one serving in the morning, one serving in the evening when she's at home. What we will do on the trail usually is one additional meal at midday. So when we break for our lunch, she'll have her lunch. The other thing I like to do is, as snacks, try to be as healthy as we can. These particular snacks, you can see they're larger, and these are made with pumpkin. It's supposed to be all natural, they're supposed to be healthy, and they're good size. So if we give her a snack, when we snack, which is usually between meals, so this, we'll give her one between our breakfast and our lunch, and then another one between lunch and dinner. Sometimes I'll skip this one and save it for the evening, especially if I think it's going to be cold. I like to feed her something right before she goes to bed, which I think helps her keep warm, just like it does for us. So we try to determine how much to bring based on how long the trip is going to be. Water, we just reuse these bottles. Usually she has 2 of these in her pack. I will say that I do allow her to drink from the water sources. It's never been an issue. One thing with Rafa, I'm not sure about other dogs, is she kind of gets in a zone walking, and she'll walk right through a stream without drinking, even if it's been a while since she's had a drink. So we have to make an effort to slow down at streams and make her drink. But always as a backup, there's usually at least a couple of these, and then I have no problem sharing my water if it turns out she starts to go through these quicker than it. One thing we didn't cover is her bowl. I bring one bowl for food and water just to keep it light. This I picked up either in Walmart or one of the large pet stores, Petco or one of those. It's worked really well. She's had it since she was a puppy. There's no leaks in it, and it folds up really small and fits in the smaller pockets. I mean, you can really fold this up small. So this, I give her food first, and then I'll give her water after she eats. So for sleeping, we do a couple of different things. One is, this is a $5 fleece blanket that we picked up in Walmart, and this is cut in half. So it was twice this size when we purchased it. I cut it in half, and for warm weather hikes, this is exactly what she'll sleep on the way it is. She sleeps right beside me inside the tent, whether she's wet or not. She sleeps in the tent with me, and in the warm weather, this is perfectly fine. It gives her a little bit of cushioning. I know it's not the greatest, but it gives her some cushioning and keeps her off the cold ground. In the cold weather, we've taken the other piece to it so that we can either double this up so she really has four layers of it between her and the ground, or we can put the 2 under her and then 2 over her if she needs it. One thing I think I'm going to try this year when we do a winter hike is a piece of Tyvek. I have some left over from the footprint we made for the tent, and I think what I'd like to try to do is put that underneath this and maybe give her another layer of insulation between her and the ground. If it's really cold, and we did do one winter overnight last year, we have this. This is the Rough Wear K9 something. I'm not sure exactly. It's the K9 something model. This is a fleece jacket, and she definitely, I mean, I guess if it got well below 0, she would need this, as she was walking, but very doubtful that we would ever be out cold enough for her to use this while we're walking. But she did sleep in it. So in addition to having a blanket below her. She has the jacket on, the fleece jacket, and then we could always put the other piece of the fleece blanket over her. So we've only been out once in the winter, and it got down into the 20s, and she appeared to be fine. Ultimately, I sleep in a sleeping bag now. Ultimately, I think I'll move to a quilt, which maybe would give us the option that I could throw a piece of that quilt over her too if it turned out that it was really cold out and we needed to share, share some warmth. Another winter piece that we have is this is Mutlux. So by the way, the jacket retails around $50. And the prices I'm giving you are for her size. I think some of these items are cheaper for smaller dogs. Obviously, if you get to the larger sizes, they typically go up in price. So these prices are for the larger dog. This is a pair of Mutlux, and what these are rubber fleece-lined booties with I'm guessing a synthetic bottom to them. And these go a little bit up her ankles. The biggest reason I got these is if we get in a situation where it's snow on the ground and she's having trouble with her paws, this will give her obviously some warmth, but more importantly, it'll stop the ice from building up in her pads, which can create some discomfort and ultimately do some real damage there. So she's only used these a little bit. She's never been out for a full day in these. We've done some practicing with them. I'll be honest, she does not like them. So I think this year we're going to have to do a little more work because I'd like to do some snowshoeing. So I think we're going to have to do a little more work with her in training for that. So there she is, fully loaded. You can see the pack is pretty well balanced, and she really shows no signs of being bothered by it. I guess the biggest thing, come on, Rafa, come on. Difference in her behavior would be it slows her down. She's very seldom will she wander off. She usually, it's almost like what I hear with service dogs and police dogs. It's almost like she knows it's time to hike. She gets in a little bit of a zone, and you can see this is what she does. She very, very rarely will wander off. Water, she's a lab, so she will take the opportunity to take a dump. And that's one thing I didn't mention is even that blanket on our last trip, I was able to get it in a Ziploc. So everything inside her pack was one way or another in a Ziploc in the hope to keep it dry, and it did seem to work pretty well. Plus the Ziploc compressed the blanket down pretty well, so it worked out. So a couple of things that have come up. I'm part of a number of groups on Facebook and things like that are dedicated to hiking and backpacking with dogs, and I know some of these are hot button issues and they get to be controversial, but I'll cover at least my philosophy, and folks are certainly welcome to disagree, but I do typically, as long as the situation allows it, I do allow Rafa to hike off leash when it's safe and it doesn't appear that she's going to disrupt anybody. Her recall is pretty good. She's a 2-year-old lab, so she's not perfect. She likes to play with other dogs. One advantage we have is we have usually 3 or 4 of us. She likes to hike behind whoever the leader is. So she'll hike one spot back behind the leaders. So we usually have at least a couple of chances to get a handle on her if another dog's coming the other way or something like that. And so we really haven't had an issue. I will not take her someplace where dogs are not allowed, whether it be a state or a national park, something like that. It's just unfortunate, but I just wouldn't do it. I don't think it's fair to everybody. So a couple of other things. I do love my dog. She's my friend and companion, and so her safety is important to me. So I try to do the things I can to keep her safe, warm, plenty of water. One thing is, before trips I check her feet, clip her nails if they need to be clipped, and during the course of the trip I check her pads and her nails and things during the course of the trip. You have to be completely prepared to end your trip if there's something going on with your dog. If she's not feeling right, if she's injured, if she's just not up to the task, you know, she didn't ask to come. So you have to be prepared to end that trip. I made her a promise. I will never ask her to carry my stuff, so I never put anything of mine in her pack, but I have put some of her things in my pack, and I always would share my water with hers, but I'm not taking her water either. So let's see, we'll give her the big test on camera. Let's see how her recall is, and I'll show you what we do with the leash in the event that we expect somebody heading our way or some situation in which she needs to get back on the leash. Hey, Rafa, come on, come on. Good girl. And just simply grab this and pull it out. So, good girl, good girl. One thing I didn't mention, leave no trace. So we use this container for the bags, and that's another reason I like to have some extra Ziplocs, is we can zip it up and hopefully not have to travel with it too long before we find a place at a road crossing or something. But again, you have to be prepared that you might have to take a couple of days worth of dog poop with you, and hopefully you have some good Ziplocs to make that bearable. So that's our video on backpacking with Rafa. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something from it. We don't claim to be experts here, folks. We're learning ourselves, and as we do, we're trying to share it and hopefully inspire people like us who don't exactly fit the profile to just get out there and do it. Don't be intimidated by it. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Obviously, try to be safe about it. But just get out and do it. So we'd love to hear any comments, anything we missed, anything you disagree with, any ideas that you can pass along. Please put it in the comment section and we will reply. And I'm sure someday we'll update this video based on that kind of feedback. But until then, we hope you enjoyed it. We hope it inspires you. And grab your dog, grab some gear, and just go backpacking.